outstanding job. You did an outstanding job of the raising the pride flag last week, and um, and Aaron Lockhart, our interim city manager, did a great speech. Thank you very much, and we are very proud to all be a part of that.
Thank you for attending.
Well, a motion would be in order.
I move, Mr. Chair. Should we take them one at a time or all together?
We can do them all together if I think that's probably the way it's been done in the past, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay, thank you. I move resolution 21-03 appointing an executive director, and resolution R21-04 appointing an auditing officer, and resolution R21-05 appointing an agent to receive claims for damages with a due pass recommendation.
I would second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Lambert and a second by Councilmember McAuliffe, considering the resolution of R21-03 appointing an executive director, R21-04 appointing an auditing officer, and R21-05 appointing an agent to receive claims and damages. Is there any discussion on the motion? With no discussion on the motion, could we have a vote?
Chair Agnew,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bess Campbell,
Yes.
Alternate Board Member McAuliffe,
Yes.
Board Member Lambert,
Yes,
and Board Member Dembowski.
yes,
Passes 5-0 with Board Members Marshall and Mead absent.
Well, Becky, get on board.
I'm on board. Let's go.
Okay,
welcome.
we're going to get a bunch of good things done. Is there any changes to the agenda? With no changes to the agenda, we're looking at the consent agenda. And that includes minutes from May 12th or May 19th. The review and approval of vouchers signed by the auditing officer for invoices received May 11th through June 8th in the amount of $234,440.91. And then executive director action report.
Mr. Chair, I move the consent agenda as outlined.
We have a move of the consent agenda as outlined. What's that?
I seconded.
Councilmember Bess Campbell seconded it. Can we have a vote? I don't think we need a vote on the consent agenda. We just said yes.
No, I think we do, don't we?
Don't we?
I think we need a vote.
We
Okay.
usually do, don't we?
Okay, why don't we have a vote on the consent agenda?
Okay,
Yes.
Chair Agnew, yes.
Yeah.
Vice Chair Bess Campbell,
Yes.
Alternate Board Member McAuliffe,
Yes.
Board Member Lambert. Sorry, did you say yes, Board Member Lambert?
Did you hear me or am I frozen?
You
You
were
froze
frozen
for a
for-
second there.
Yes,
Okay, thanks. And
no
Board
problem.
Member Dembowski.
yes,
Okay, passes 5-0 with Board Members Marshall and Mead absent.
Okay. Reports. We get North Shore Senior Briefing Report from Brooks Knight.
All right. Well, I will keep it brief. Programmatically, we are continuing to reopen slowly but surely. As I think I mentioned last month, one of our bigger challenges is just figuring out our staffing and our volunteer team to fill the gaps, because we have lost a lot of staff and a lot of volunteers, and staff have been redirected in other ways. And so we can't turn things on quite as quickly as we would like to, but we are working diligently on it and expanding programs pretty continually. We are kind of waiting for that June 30th timeline, and still really trying to figure out what exactly that means. Everything we're reading says most of the state will be open again. And knowing that we have programs that are serving some very special needs individuals in some of our programs. So we're kind of proceeding a little bit cautiously. We still have our mask mandate in effect, for example, at this point, but still kind of, we are not I know our members are really anxious for us to get rid of that for the most part. So we're just proceeding cautiously. We're certainly not going to be wearing masks forever, but also don't feel like we need to be the first ones to jump into the pool there. So we are facilities wise, we've got we finished up our coffee bar, which we got some private funds to facilitate about a year and a half ago. It just took us a while to get it all done, so that's exciting. We have been doing pretty consistent maintenance on our bioswale, which you remember a couple of years ago was a pretty big issue for us, with some maintenance and vegetation removal that had been deferred for a long time. So now we are actually paying an outside company to come in and do that on a regular basis, because it is a big job. We are starting the planning work on our dance studio, which you all approved a couple of months ago. So we are getting ready for that. And just generally kind of trucking forward. It is, maybe interestingly, the reopening has been harder for staff than the closing was. It's just a lot of moving pieces all at the same time, and sometimes in a bit of an information vacuum. And so, uncertainty about what we can and should be doing. How do we go about things in the best way? And just a lot of moving pieces, but we are, we've had our doors open since May 1st. We've got people in the building participating in programs every day and expanded programs every day. And so that's the path we're on, and we'll continue to do that as we move forward. So it's exciting times, but there's a lot of stuff happening. So and that's about it.
Any questions for Brooke?
I have a question. Brooke, when is the dance studio going to open? Estimates, of course.
Oh, it'll be a while. I would say probably fourth quarter.
Fourth quarter?
Yeah.
Perfect.
Moving right along then, if there's no more questions, we have 3 discussion items that we need to bring up and talk about. First discussion item is considering the minute order number MO-21-09, updating the capital repair plan.
Right, I will, of course, brief you on this item. I'm really excited to kind of culminate some of my work with NPRSA with this item. It's giving you a rundown of where all the projects are currently, and I have more information to give you on an estimated budget and timeline for your projects too. But before I jump into that, I just want to give an overview of all the great work that the board has done so far. So this all started almost 2 years ago now, when the board issued that first facility condition assessment, and that really got the ball rolling on needing to put a measure on the ballot for voters to consider. So that was approved in 2019, and then your levy revenue started coming in 2020. Around that time, you contracted with the city of Bothell as your administering agency to have some staff to implement your levy and implement all of your capital repairs. And right out the gates, we presented a purchasing policy to you, which you approved, as well as your first round of the capital repairs plan. And that plan authorized staff to move forward pursuing all of the projects listed there and determining what would be the best procurement method to get those done. Since then, we've built out your capital team. So we have a job order contractor, as well as a consultant, and then architects and engineers who are all working on these, advising on the scope development for your projects. And so with all of their feedback, and of course the feedback from our senior center staff and partners, I can present to you your updated capital repairs plan. So this plan is attached to your agenda bill, and let me reshare my screen as I pull it up to walk you through it. Let's see. All Are you seeing my Excel sheet here? Yeah, okay. So this is your capital repairs plan as is. So in total, we have identified 16 projects that are your top priority projects for this first phase. That's not to say there is not other work that needs to be done, but based off of some feedback from our team, the senior center staff, as well as that facility condition assessment, these are your top priorities. The second column here shows what facility they're at, whether it's at the North Shore Senior Center or the Health and Wellness Center. It shows the status, whether some are in progress, whether that be in scope development, procurement, or some are almost complete with construction. And then this is the new information for you this evening, is an estimated cost. So these costs were developed based on feedback from the job order contractor, consultant, as well as our architect and engineers. And so the punchline is that your 16 top priority projects total a little over $3.5 million. And so you're probably wondering, can we afford that? And the answer is yes. Your total levy revenue is about $7.2 million. So you're well within your means to pursue these 16 projects, and then you have plenty to allocate to future a phase 2 set of projects, capital reserve strategy. That will be up to the board to decide moving forward. I do want to give you some updates on some projects that are in the works, and I don't know when the last time y'all were able to swing by the center, so I do have some photos I'm going to share, which I hope is as fun for you as it is for me. So this, can you see my slides again? Okay, so one of the projects is to replace the, to repair the windows and siding, as well as other building facade components on the North Shore Senior Center. So you can see in this bottom left corner here, some of the equipment to open the windows in the Senior Center has been broken for some time. And so this is actually a wrench that's attached to the window to be able to open and close it. So that will be no more. The other photos show our architects and engineers coming around and checking each window inside and outside the facility to determine if it needed replaced or any repairs done to it. Some will need some replacement, some repairs, but the majority of the windows are in really good shape and still have quite a bit of life left in them. The siding around the windows, however, there's some water damage. You know, it's the same siding that's been there since the building was built in 1992. So some of that will need to be replaced. And then this photo on the right is actually on the balcony that faces south. And that balcony is rotted out on the top. So there's significant water damage, and that will need completely replaced. So this is a project that is in scope development right now. The second big ticket item, probably your biggest ticket item to talk about, is replacing the HVAC in the roof on the North Shore Senior Center. So most of the ductwork, which is the gray boxes, that's still in good shape and doesn't need replaced. But the actual HVAC itself, which is the teal kind of green boxes, that will need replaced. That's the same equipment that was there since the building was built. And then the roof also, I'm sure you've heard a lot about the Senior Center roof. It's just time. So the photos here on the right show the architect coring the roof, where they drill out a section of the roof to see what layers are in the design, and then we'll make a recommendation on what needs replaced based on that. The last project to just call your attention to is the pedestrian bridge. So on the left here is a photo of the underside of the bridge, and you can see the extent of the rust damage is actually quite extensive. And on the two photos on the right here show they've pulled back these metal plates along the walkway, and most of that inside has been rusted out and is damaged. There isn't a safety issue here with the bridge. However, it is a priority to get refinished and get the rust situation addressed. So this is in scope development. They need to request a right-of-way permit from the city to partially close down one of the lanes underneath the bridge in order to refinish the underside. So depending on how long that takes, this is a project that could be done late this summer or early fall. And that brings me to the end of the presentation. There's a lot more detail in the actual plan I'm happy to answer any questions about. But really what approving this updated plan does is continues to give staff direction to move forward with the projects listed here.
Question?
Go ahead.
Thank you. So I was on the board when the bridge was put in, and there were issues right from the beginning that had to be corrected. Do you have any of the history of what those things were? No. Okay.
I don't.
So anyway, I don't remember exactly what they were, but anyway, we had to redo some things in the beginning. So it would be interesting to see as they work on it, you know, if they have any comments on that. Okay.
Any other questions? Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. So I'm looking at this schedule here, and it says roof repair and assessment in progress. Some of it's not started. So is that what we're talking about when you're talking about the roof replacement? Could you speak about that a little bit more? Because I think that's one of our HVAC and roof is one of the biggest projects, correct?
That's correct. Yes. On the North Shore Senior Center, the Health and Wellness Center roof also has some, it's not in as dire of a situation as the roof on the Senior Center, but it does need some of the shingles in certain areas have worn faster than shingles in other areas. And so that would be a spot replacement. So both of those assessments are underway right now.
Right. And so could I say, when it says this is in progress, and then it says not started, is there a timeline for when you will start?
Yes, it's been a little tricky to nail down the timeline because it is so dependent on contractors' availability and contractor scheduling. So for example, the health and wellness roof is smaller in scope. That could get on a contractor's schedule easier for like late this summer, early fall. However, a complete replacement of a roof on a 25,000 square foot commercial building, there's no way that could get done this summer. That would be next fall, or excuse me, next spring, early summer.
Okay. I guess it would be interesting if we could kind of see a anticipated timeline. I don't know if that's likely, but seems to me that would be something that I might be interested in.
Okay.
Yep.
We can do that.
Any other
Hey, Tom.
questions?
Oh, this is Rod. Do we have
Councilmember-
time for another one?
Absolutely. Councilmember Dabowski.
Oh, thank you, Tom. Carly, first of all, really great work and just tremendous professionalism. And it's great to kind of see it laid out, and just want to thank you for all the preparation that you put into the presentations. And it's very understandable. So thank you. And I wondered, as we go forward, since we're doing roof and HVAC, would it make any sense, or would it be possible to include as an assessment an option for the board, whether it makes sense to put any solar panels up there to, reduce our green gas emissions and maybe even save us some money long term? I don't know what the state of the art is, but it's getting more common, and it's a big old space up there.
Yes, it is a big space, and I did have a conversation with our engineer about that, and said since that one we have some more time, since this summer is it's too fast, it can't happen. There is more time to do some of that analysis. So if the board is interested, we could request that the engineer put together like what is it like to just replace the equipment, replace in place like for like. What would it be to do the big solar panel, like the big flashy, here's like the latest and greatest green option, and then something more in the middle. You could do 3 options and see how the board would like to move forward.
If the assessment costs aren't tremendous, if that's in kind of their area of expertise, you know, and it wouldn't add to our schedule extensively, I mean, it's something I'm interested in. But if you got into it and you said, oh, this is, you know, going to cost us a lot more and extend the timeline, then I wouldn't want to maybe push it. That's my thinking, but I'm open to our colleagues on the board's views.
I was thinking the exact same thing and looking at all that space and thinking, you know, because now they have some smaller solar panels, that even if we did a few of the smaller panels over, you know, a larger area, would that protect the roof by having the solar panels up there? And what would be the return on investment, but also the reduction over time in our energy costs, since these are such big buildings. So I agree with what Councilmember Dembowski said. You know, even if they could give us a back of the napkin kind of estimate, are we talking about 500,000? Are we talking about 100,000? Are we talking about 2 million? Just even that kind of an idea, so we would know, is it worth continuing to discuss? But kind of the ROI issues are important too.
So if I may, the City of Woodinville has just applied for some grants, or is in the process of applying for grants for solar panel on our buildings. And there's a Department of Commerce grant that we're looking into that covers 50% of the cost, up to 50% of the cost of installing solar panels. And the estimate that we got, again, it's a super back of the napkin, for our city hall, which is it's not nearly as big as most other city halls, I think was $200,000, and that included converters for the power, that included the panels. And in terms of ROI, I think we were somewhere around 11 or 12 years on that. So 200,000, I think, I can't remember the square footage. It was, I can't even estimate anymore. We're in that process. So if the board would like, I can bring back some of the information that we get from our investigation on that to see if that's like a ballpark estimate that we would want. But that's probably as close as we can get without paying for an estimate, just kind of piggybacking on what we're doing. I'd be happy to bring that back to the board.
Could you send it even before that to Carly so she can be using it right away before our next board meeting?
If we get that information by then, yes. We are at the mercy of, we're using an ESCO, so it's somebody else's hands, but I'll see if I can get my little mitts on it and then send it to Carly. Absolutely.
That's great. So was that 200,000 after the 50% reduction, or is it before the 50% reduction?
So the 200,000 was an estimate for the entirety of the project. So if we would qualify for a grant, it would be for $100,000, but the entire project is estimated at 200,000 just for the solar panels and for the inverter unit that they have. That sounds, if that holds up, I think that's really definitely worth thinking about for sure, especially if you get 50% reduction from a grant. Mm-hmm. And that probably on your ROI was just on the equipment, as opposed to also doing another bottom line adjustment to the reduction in power costs. Right, that was just on the panels themselves. And I think that the inverters, they last 15 to 20 years, something like that. But again, when I get this information from my city manager, I will pass it on to the board and Carly for sure.
Any other comments? Well, I agree. Let's move forward on this. Let's take a look at the solar panels. I like the idea a lot. So I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair, I move to approve minute order number MO-21-09 updating the capital repairs plan.
Councilmember Rachel Best Campbell has given us a motion. Is there a second? Councilmember Lambert has seconded the motion. Are there any questions? Take a vote on the motion.
Okay. Chair Agnew,
Yes.
Vice Chair Best Campbell,
Yes.
Alternate Board Member McAuliffe,
Yes.
Board Member Lambert,
Yes.
and Board Member Dembowski.
Yes.
Okay, passes 5-0 with Board Members Marshall and Mead absent.
Well, moving right along, we have a consideration of amendment order MO-21-10 facility modification request for water bottle fill station.
By now the board's probably familiar with us bringing you these facility modification requests made by the senior center. We're going to change it up a little bit tonight and just have Brooke talk to you directly about her plan. It is staff's recommendation that the board approve this request, but I'll let Brooke give you a little rundown.
Sure, thanks, Carly. So, we started bringing pickleball and a whole bunch of other things back into the building in early May, and quickly realized that we had our water fountains covered like most public places do, and we needed to get water to people. And in thinking about that, just kind of realized that maybe moving away from a traditional water fountain to more of a bottle filler might be a more sanitary option for the senior center as we move forward. Even lacking COVID, I think there are some, hygiene issues with the regular water fountains that we'd like to not have to deal with. So we are looking at and hoping to install water bottle fillers in both buildings to replace current water fountains. The ones we are looking at are ADA accessible, ADA compliant, and really it's work that our facilities person can do on his own. It's not a huge cost, and we will be assuming the cost. But of course it is a modification to the building. And so we're looking for your approval of that plan.
Question?
Yes.
Go ahead, Councilmember Lambert.
Thank you. So this is exciting. I looked at the specifications last night. This thing is pretty super duper. It recycles it, it moves it over, it makes it do this, do that. I'm like, wow, they thought of everything. The one thing I couldn't picture from the picture was, is this like flat? It looked like it came out from the wall and then had a tank outside. Is it flat or does it come out?
I think they come out from the wall, but
It looked like to me.
Yeah, I think they do because they are wheelchair accessible. So I think you can kind of roll up to them and under them. So
that's what I was wondering, because I tried to look at the blueprint that you had to see, do you wheelchair underneath it, or do you go up alongside of it, or is it flat to the wall? And I couldn't figure that out, but I think when it's in, we'll probably know.
yeah, and if I am wrong, maybe Zorna, you could raise your hand and correct me. I know you're on the call. And Kathy, you probably have looked at the specs more intensely than I have, but at least the way I have envisioned them and the pictures I have seen, or the schematics I have seen, I thought that they stuck out from the wall.
Okay, that's kind of what it looked like to me. I was with the high school and they did germ cultures of the water faucet tops, and it was so ugly. I haven't been to a water faucet since I saw that. It was really unbelievable. So I think this is a great idea.
Yeah. And certainly more environmentally friendly than giving out water bottles all the time to people. So.
Question, Brooke, do we have water bottles available that are refillable for the senior center. So we don't have to, so you're giving away water bottles right now for people to fill up at the water bottle stations or at the drinking fountains. Are you going to have refillable bottles for people to take home with them, or are you still going to have disposable cups?
So right now we're just giving out recyclable water bottles, just like the kind you purchase at Costco. We will be encouraging people to bring their own water bottles to the senior center, and we may have some there. We may have some paper cups as well for people who don't have them. But we have not talked about purchasing water bottles for people. So it's certainly an option. And yeah, something we might be a fun way to get our name out in the community even more.
That was what I was thinking, is it looks really nice when people are playing pickleball, you know, with the North Shore Senior Center logo on it. I think that would be great. And, you know, at the airport, this is wonderful because there's nothing more disgusting than literally any surface in an airport. And those water filling stations they're fantastic. We have them in our parks here in Woodinville, and they're really appreciated. And I think it's great that you're thinking about how not to have as many things for people to trip over. And, you know, one more thing that we need to add to the landfill. So good work. I like that.
Thank you.
Any other questions?
You know, I probably have 15 or 20 water bottles around this house that I'd be happy to donate. And I probably have 50 of those garbage, you know, recyclable garbage laundry, food, the grocery store bags. So if we decide we need something, let me know. I'd be happy to clean the closet.
Chair Agnew, Zorna also had her hand raised. Zorna Campbell, do you have anything to add to the discussion at this time?
Yeah, but probably not a conversation Brooke may have been a part of, but we did definitely have a conversation about purchasing or even allowing other people to purchase water bottles with logos on them. We're also encouraging people to obviously bring their own. They already do that. And probably as far as cups and that, we actually have in the coffee bar, we always have pitchers of water and cups. So kind of the hope is that if they're just looking for a cup of water, a drink of water, they'll use the coffee bar. But we definitely have, I think Corey's already kind of looking at the logo water bottle. So that's probably something we would also like to have.
And as usual, my team is 4 steps ahead of me, so.
Thank you very much. Is there any more questions? With no more questions, I'd entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go
I
ahead.
move to approve minute order number M0-21-10, facility modification request for water bottle fill stations.
Second.
We have a motion by Councilmember Bess Campbell and a second by Councilmember McAuliffe to approve the minute order number MO-21-10, facility modification request for water bottling fill stations. Are there any comments?
I have one question. Was this the issue where it was going to cost $1,000, but it may cost $1,500 if something else happens? So I think it's important to get in right away, but I was wondering when that decision would be made so you'd even know.
I think as soon as we get approval from you all, we will go ahead and move forward and get it done. So we're ready to roll.
Okay, so at the $1,500 per or the $1,000 per, or you don't know that yet?
You know, one of them takes a little bit longer to arrive, as I recall, and one of them. So I think, you know, I would probably opt for the one that gets here a little bit sooner.
I think the difference was 5 months, if I remember correctly. That's too long to wait. So
Yeah.
I agree with you. I just wanted to tell you, I agree with you on that.
Okay, we have a motion on the table. That's been seconded. Can we have a vote?
Chair Agnew,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bess Campbell,
Yes.
Alternate Board Member McAuliffe,
Yes.
Board Member Lambert, And Board Member Dembowski.
Yes.
Okay, motion passes 5-0 with Board Members Marshall and Mead absent.
Outstanding. Moving right along, we have a consideration of minute order number MO-21-11, authorizing staff to consider tenant facility modification requests.
So this is actually the item I think you're referring to, Board Member Lambert. With this, we're asking the board how involved you would like to be in facility modification requests, such as the one you just approved. That's something you can delegate to your administering agency staff to review and vet and approve. So it's up to you if that's something you'd like to delegate, if you'd like to keep having us bring those back to you each month. I will say we did receive some feedback from the North Shore Senior Center team that potentially waiting up to a month to get approval, especially on something that maybe is not as complicated, such as the water bottle fill station, that can be a little cumbersome. So, and if the board did choose to delegate this to staff, there are some parameters we would put in place. One being, if any requests that come through, any decisions that are made, the board would be briefed on at the following meeting. And then if any requests come through that are very complex and have significant changes to the facilities, which has come through in the past, such as like the food pantry build out, I think is a good example. That would be one where staff would probably say the board really should weigh in on this. So up to you, looking for your direction, your interest in vetting these moving forward.
Discussion on the item.
Mr. Chair.
Go ahead.
So, so in my view, I think there's two routes, right? There's one where you set a fixed dollar amount, or the other one is how significant are the changes going to be on the center itself. You could have something small that's insignificant that costs a lot of money, or it has a subsidy. So I think that there's an interplay between those two. It would stand to reason generally, though, that large ticket items would cause the most change to the senior center. So I wonder if we should consider just setting a dollar amount. So like, for example, the water bottles in the last one, I think it was it $5,600 for the fillers. So it makes a change, but it's not an incredibly significant amount. I'm torn. I would absolutely love to delegate some of this, but I also don't want to be in a position where the board pulls back money and says, but you did it wrong this time. Not that I anticipate that either the board or the executive director would ever have that. But just thinking through that, I would be comfortable with, along the lines of the water bottle, $5,000-$6,000. I think that's a reasonable amount of money. It's not going to be a significant change, but I mean, some of that would, I think, have to be at the discretion of staff. Do you think that it is enough of a change, or do you think it's not enough of a change? That's my 2 cents, and you get a nickel change. So
I'll take the change and move along.
Hey, Tom, this is Rod.
Go ahead, Councilmember DeBosk.
I like Councilmember Bess Campbell's notion there, and maybe would suggest that anything under $10,000 and that is not structural in nature, if that would be a test, the staff could proceed to do it without, board approval. I certainly found it interesting, but don't feel compelled to need to vote on water fillers while carrying out our duties. I have confidence in the team here.
I would like to add to that. I agree with the 10,000 because 55,000 doesn't go very far anymore. But the 10,000. But if it were more than that, and Brooke said this is an emergency kind of thing, like when the back door didn't close, for instance, then I'm like, okay, we need the back door to close. We can't have somebody.
That's a good addition, Kathy, or something that requires urgent, repair. I think good idea.
Thank you. And then I didn't see it in the writing, which is why I wrote you about it, but I would like the same thing, that whatever it is comes back to us so we get a list. And then if we have a question or we want to see the schematics or whatever, if we're interested for some other crazy reason, whatever, we could. But I do agree with what Councilmember Beth Campbell and Dabowski said.
Any other comment? Brooke?
I like the emergency provision. I think that's an excellent catch. But yeah, nobody needs a back door hanging wide open or a leaky roof. I mean, we trust Brooke to be honest and forthright, and she always has been. So particularly in an emergency, I think that's so 10,000 and the stipulation for emergencies, which I know that Brooke will not in any way abuse. So I think that seems to be fair.
Brooke, you had something you wanted to add?
I just wanted to clarify, maybe Carly can help with this clarification. I think that the NPRSA staff, so that would be Becky at this point, Becky and Barbara, are already authorized to do certain repairs and things without board approval, certainly when there's an emergency. I think what we're talking about are things where North Shore Senior Center is assuming the cost. But it's something that we have either decided it's going to be an improvement to our programs, improvement to our facilities, but it is going to modify the facilities. And so we would like to do it at our own expense, but it is modifying the facilities. And Carly, correct me if I am understanding that wrong.
No, that was the same clarification I was going to make too. And the reason this is kind of coming about is a stipulation in the NPRSA North Shore Senior Center user agreement, which is up for renewal by the end of this year. And so this is something the board could discuss again in terms of the agreement. Right now you have language in there that says the board must approve in writing any modifications to the facilities under over $1,000. So it's a very, very small amount, which is why when, we were contacted about the water bottle fill stations, it was kind of like, wow, this is kind of a no-brainer for a modification, yet it's in the agreement that the board has to approve this. So that's kind of where we're trying to get a feel for what the board's interest is in this. So. And as far as emergency goes, yes, Brooke, you're correct that the executive director is already authorized to move forward on emergency repairs. That's authorized in the NPRSA purchasing policy.
Okay, well then I would draw that then, since we already have that. That's great. But we would still get it coming back at the next meeting, the list of all those things.
Yes, that's correct.
Councilmember Dabowski, did you have something?
So, yeah, well, I apologize. So I guess I'm a little confused. If I listen to Brooke carefully, these are costs that the senior center as tenant would want to do and pay for, but we have the $1,000 cap in the agreement with them now. And so they have to come to us for approval, even if they are paying. I'm seeing Carly nod. Okay. Well, I would be open to raising that threshold to $10,000. And maybe I would suggest that that we ask that the senior center executive director consult with, at some level with the board chair, but I don't think we need a meeting or advise the board chair. Just giving you more work, Tom.
Thanks, Rod.
You're welcome, buddy. And backing up, by the way, if the senior center is going to pay for those water filling stations, I actually think that we should take that up as the NPSRA and PRSA and reimburse them. Our budget's a little healthier now.
Yeah, it is.
We have lots of things that they had on their list that we haven't talked about yet, that we can make them very happy with.
Hear, hear. So, Carly, did you get enough information?
Yes, it sounds like the board is interested in delegating this function to staff up for modifications up to $10,000. And then that can also be formalized when you renew your agreement by the end of the year. But at least in the interim, if the senior center comes to NPRSA staff saying, hey, we want to make a modification, the board is comfortable with staff vetting and approving, asking for more information, and then bringing the decision back to the board to brief the board.
Okay, thank you. That was clarification enough.
That sounds good to me. Councilmember
Here, here.
McAuliffe has a lot of construction and development experience. I wonder what she thinks about that.
I think you're all going in the right direction. I think that, Brooke has been very responsible, and I think that we should support anything up to $10,000. And I guess I would say whether you have to consult with the chair or not, I don't think so. I would not add that to it.
I agree.
I have no objection to that.
Yeah, as long as, I think as long as it comes back to us in the packet and the
Right.
next meeting, that's good enough.
I would agree.
I agree. Okay, we've had a.
Yeah, I rescued you, Tom.
What's that?
I
I
rescued you.
know, Rosemary, I love you.
Thank you. I'm
So
just gonna let you retire.
I'd like to entertain a motion.
Mr. Chair,
Go
I move
ahead.
to approve order number MO-21-11, authorizing staff to consider tenant facility modification requests.
We have a motion. Do I have a second?
Second,
We have a second. We have a motion by Councilmember Bess Campbell and a second by Councilmember McCullough to approve minute order number MO-21-11, authorizing staff to consider tenant facility modification requests. Could we have a vote?
Chair Agnew,
Yes.
Vice Chair Bess Campbell,
Yes.
alternate Board Member McAuliffe,
yes.
Board Member Lambert.
Yes.
And Board Member Dembowski.
Yes.
Passes 5-0 with Board Members Marshall and Mead absent.
Perfect. Moving right along, I think we have some future meetings that we have to attend.
We get to attend, Mr. Chair.
We do.
Mr. Chair, when we have new business, I have a really weird topic to ask about.
Absolutely. And, for our future meetings, can everybody just try to make sure that we get in touch with staff and let them know whether we're going to attend or not attend? That kind of be helpful for staff anyway. And you have July 21st, August 18th, September 15th, and October 20th on your calendars. Be there or be square as it used to be. Now we have, for the good of the order, Councilmember Lambert, did you have something?
I do, and it's weird, and I know it's weird, and I'm sorry it's weird, but it's weird. I am really concerned about some of the things that I was looking at on the urinals. Don't ask me why I'm interested in urinals, but I had to deal with that on a project. And I have seen some new ways of doing that. And as people get older, it's more difficult to do what they need to do. And so rather than doing urinals, they have done tile from about, say, 4.5 feet up, and then straight down to the floor. So there's no problems with other problems. And so as we're looking at this, I didn't see a lot on the tiling that maybe we need to look at some more modern things so that we don't have problems with people being unable to use those. So anyway, I'd be happy to talk about that offline because it is a weird topic, but it is not very sanitary sometimes. And while this is all a part, it might be a good time to look at that.
Okay.
I know, Rachel, it is weird. We just want to keep people safe and sanitary.
Councilmember McAuliffe.
Thank you. So Kathy, it's interesting because at Hollywood Schoolhouse, we had those urinals forever. The ones that were tall, went all the way to the ground. And I don't know, they probably have been there for 25, 30 years, but they worked well and they're better than the ones where you have to kind of like aim and fire.
As you get older, that's not done too easily. And so things happen. And
Especially with this age group.
yeah,
Well, I got 2 5-year-old grandkids. It doesn't happen too well either. I mean,
the spectrums of life on both ends. But I gather it's a weird topic for sure, but it's a safety issue. If the floor is wet and somebody falls,
Right.
it's all kinds of issues. And it's when I saw that they're taking them off the walls anyway and then reinstalling, and they're going to put, and I don't think it said that they were putting green board behind it. I think it was just sheetrock. Are they putting sheetrock or green board behind it?
They have put green board because it's what, there's so much water.
That's what I thought, but I don't think that that's what it said. So maybe I didn't read it properly, but I looked to see if there was green board because it's easier to put, well, it's not necessarily easier, but anyway, so I was just interested in us looking a little bit more closely at that while they've got them off anyway.
Kathy, I'll just say this is not an issue I have spent any time thinking about or am familiar with, but I really appreciate you calling out the fact that there are oftentimes different facility needs specific to this age group, you know, non-slip floors and other things. And it's just an important framework for us to keep as we move forward.
Thank you. It was kind of embarrassing to bring up, but I figured, hey, if we're talking about a building and it's part of the cost, we should at least talk about it. So.
You can bring up anything here you want to bring up within reason now.
And reason. Oh, that's a challenge for next time. No.
I actually have seen that that urinal design elsewhere, even in non-senior center settings. And it's in terms of sanitation, it's a lot easier because there's a hose and you take the hose and you take the soap and you scrub it down. But it also alleviates a little bit of embarrassment, I think, if you miss, or we won't get too much into the details and the weeds on that one. But I think there's a little bit of dignity in that as well, that, you know, you aren't drawing attention to the fact that maybe your aim isn't as good as it used to be. So I think that that's though an embarrassing topic, it's a useful topic. Let's put it that way.
So to just finish the night on an interesting note, I once made the front page of the Sacramento Bee because I took all the urinals and turned them into flower pots, because we were the first women to ever be in a co-ed dorm and our floor did not need those. And so they were all flower pots. I will tell you, watering them was easy. And we had the most beautiful flowers, and they made the front page of the newspaper. And I was so proud that I actually had a green thumb. And I showed my mom and she was not pleased. So is this what I send you to college for? But so it's always funny when I see one of those. That could be a flower pot. So anyway.
So if
They were probably the sweetest smelling urinals.
They were.
Well, I think we've had for the good of the order.
But we did.
I think we're done.
I want to
we're
commend
done.
Councilmember Bess Campbell for the alleviate pun. I thought that was good. Mr. Chair, if I could provide a quick update.
Oh, please do, Councilmember.
Thank you. The staff sent a letter, which was discussed last time, to the county regarding our federal ARPA, American Rescue Plan money. We were able to include in our last, what we call COVID budgets, some money, and I apologize for not having the number before me right now. I'm trying to pull it up, but for senior centers, prioritizing those that are not owned or operated by another government that receive federal money. In other words, there's a lot of, say the Renton Senior Center is owned by the city of Renton. They got federal money, they can make a choice. North Shore isn't. Shoreline is similar, I think Greenwood and maybe one in West Seattle, but there are some around the county. We wanted to bring them forward in terms of a prioritization to be able to get this money. So we will get some details and connect Brooke's team to the right folks at the county when that RFP becomes available. But there should be some dollars there to help. I think North Shore will compete healthily, and I know Councilmember Lambert will help push the bureaucracy to do the right thing with me. So that is how that kind of resolved.
That's good news. Thank you very much. Thank you very much. So,
And then
No,
one other
sorry.
question, and pickleball was mentioned. I wondered if Brooke could give us a status report on the pickleball court proposal.
Sorry, I have to find my cursor. Not much to update. So we've been pretty busy. So the idea, of course, has been to look at feasibility of installing an outdoor sports court back behind the building where we have, in fact, we used to have a bocce ball court back there with kind of special grass, and that has long since faded away, and now it's just a bunch of weeds where even grass won't grow because of how it was set up for bocce ball. So in any case, using that space to do an outdoor sports court, we have done some initial investigation, but we do not yet have a formal, any formal bid. So staff is working on that, but it's been a little bit of a whirlwind the past couple of months. So we are not as far along in that as we would like to be, unfortunately. And I know our pickleball players are, they would have been there yesterday had it been ready. So
Thanks, Brooke. So it sounds like it's still an interest in doing. It's just you've been busy.
absolutely.
Great.
Status of the protection of the buses.
So the buses, we have looked into a whole bunch of different things in terms of keeping the parking lot a little bit more secure. We have installed some signage. And we've looked at, I don't think we've installed any cameras. The biggest change that we have made, however, is to put a cabling system over each of the catalytic converters. That makes it really much more challenging for anyone to cut them. And then I think we did, we had a couple of lights that were not functioning, and I think we fixed those as well. So we've just improved the lighting. We've got the buses parked somewhere else for now. That won't work as easily once we're at full capacity. But the biggest deterrent has been just to install that cabling system over the converters themselves.
Are you going to do like a bus barn kind of thing at any point that's more secure?
You know, we looked into doing that. The only option we really have right now would be to put a large fence, like a chain link fence around part of the parking lot. The way that the parking lot is set up, it would actually make it really challenging for the buses to get in and out every day with that configuration. And the people that we talked to essentially said, you know, people are still going to climb over it if they want to get in, right? It's not a huge deterrent. Besides that, it just, you know, it would look ugly. It's not ideal, I think. So we could potentially look at storing some of the buses or all of the buses offsite at a bus barn. It just adds another layer of complication to our operations. So
I guess my question is cameras. You mentioned it, but I'm not sure what your analysis was. What about actually having cameras on site?
Yeah, so we have looked into that. As I recall, we can pull electricity off of the light posts out in the back to wire those cameras. I think what we heard from the security experts we talked to was kind of like, you could put a real camera, you could put a fake camera. All it's really doing is a deterrent. You're probably not going to necessarily stop someone with the camera or catch someone by virtue of the camera. So it seemed like it wasn't necessarily the best investment at this time. I think we're kind of, we have put up some signs saying that there are cameras as a deterrent, but I'm not certain that we will pursue that right at this moment.
Anything
Hey,
else?
Tom.
Sure.
Yeah, I got a little more details. We were able to get $3 million for the senior centers, not owned or operated by cities. So that's a pretty good chunk of change. And then we also added, an interest of mine is this isolation that we've seen during COVID in young people and senior folks, right? And so we put $4 million in to have the department develop for younger folks and for seniors who have been isolated, some recovery programs. And I think that North Shore could be well positioned to help out in that space as well. So we're hopefully some federal largesse lands up in the North Shore hands here.
Thank you very much. I can't tell you how much we appreciate everything that you guys do.
It's partnership.
Yep.
It is. It is. So we're done talking about urinals. We're
Aw.
moving
I'm
on.
gonna be on time to these things. This is.
Well, if you were on time, we'd have been done a half hour
I
ago.
know. I know. Next time, Kathy, tell me if we got these great topics.
I will see you. Oh, Carly.
Yeah, if I can just take a few minutes to just say thank you to everyone. It's been such a pleasure to work with all of you, and like you all, my favorite part of all of this has been the senior center staff. So I just want to do a heartfelt thanks and wish you all the best moving forward, getting these repairs done to the senior center so they can keep providing all of the really awesome service that they do. So I'll be next door. I'm not too far away. But yeah, thank you.
I'll buy a cup of coffee if you want to come back up to the city.
Thank you, Carly. You will be very
Thank you, Carly.
missed, as I think
Thank you,
know.
Carly.
Thank
Come back anytime.
Anytime.
All right,
with that-
I believe looking for a motion to adjourn, Mr. Chair?
Yeah, I was looking for a motion to adjourn, or I was just going to say, see you July 21st.
I'll be polite. Motion to adjourn.
We have a motion. Do we have a second?
Second.
Do we have a vote?
You can do oral on that.
Or everybody raise their hand that wants to go.
Is that another urinal joke?
No, no, no.
That's what I was thinking too.
No, it's really time to go now. We're all chippy. We're chippy. It's time to go.
Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.
Good night. Take care. Good work, everybody.
Wow.
Well, those urinal jokes will absolutely be reflected in the minutes. Sorry about the confusion with getting things started. I'm really not sure what some of the problems were. I know now what a few of the things were, but there are other things that I just don't know what was happening. But I just shut the
Yeah.
recording off.